On a freezing night, a German shepherd, alone, trembling, its fur caked with ice, was chained to a pole, crying for help as death loomed near. But what one man did next left the world in awe. This heart-wrenching story will move you to tears and lift your spirit. Watch till the end to witness an act of kindness that changes everything. Don't forget to subscribe and share this incredible tale with your friends so they can feel the warmth too. The snow fell relentlessly, blanketing the small town of Willow Creek in a silence broken only by the howl of the winter wind. It was well past midnight and the streets were deserted, save for one man trudging through the cold. This was Tom, a 38-year-old animal shelter worker whose life revolved around the creatures others had forgotten. His worn jacket and tired eyes told of long hours, but his heart burned with a quiet passion for every stray he met. Tonight, that passion would be tested in ways he never imagined, as a single moment would set him on a path to save a life and change his own. Tom had worked at Willow Creek's only animal shelter for over a decade. The modest building with its peeling paint and creaky floors was more than a workplace. It was a sanctuary for the lost and abandoned. Tom spent his days feeding, cleaning, and comforting animals, often staying late to ensure they felt safe. His co-workers teased him for his soft spot, but Tom didn't mind. To him, every wagging tail or grateful nudge was worth it. Animals, he believed, loved without judgment, and he owed them his best in return. But tonight, as he locked the shelter's heavy door, he thought only of home, a warm bed and a quiet evening after a long shift. As he turned the key, a sound pierced the stillness, a faint, trembling whimper, so soft it could have been a trick of the wind. Tom paused, his breath visible in the icy air. He listened, heart quickening. There it was again, desperate and raw, coming from the alley behind the shelter. With a sinking feeling, he grabbed his flashlight and stepped into the snow, his boots sinking deep as he followed the sound. The whimper grew louder, more heart-wrenching, until he reached the alley's end. There, chained to a rusted pole, was a German shepherd, its body shaking violently in the freezing dark. The dog was in a pitiful state. Ice clung to its matted fur, and its ribs jutted out beneath a coat marred by scars. The chain around its neck was cruelly tight, cutting into raw skin, and its paws were bloodied from scratching at the frozen ground. Tom's flashlight swept over the dog, revealing eyes that shimmered with pain but held a flicker of hope. This wasn't just a stray. This was a creature that had been betrayed, abandoned to die in the cold by someone without a shred of mercy. Tom's chest tightened as he knelt beside the dog, his gloved hand hovering. To his surprise, the dog didn't pull away. Instead, it leaned into his touch, its weak cry softening into a grateful whine. Tom named the dog Rex, a name that carried strength, a vow that this animal would survive. But as he looked at Rex's frail form, a heavy truth settled in. The shelter had strict rules. No new animals could be admitted after hours without the director's approval. The director, a man more concerned with budgets than compassion, would never agree to take in a dog in such poor condition. Breaking the rules could cost Tom his job, and with no savings or family to fall back on, that was a risk that loomed large. He thought of the warm kennels inside, filled with animals he'd already saved, and then at Rex, whose every shuddering breath was a fight against the cold. The moral dilemma weighed on him like the snow piling around them. Follow the rules and Rex would die before morning. Break them and Tom could lose everything he'd worked for. He considered his options. Calling the director was pointless at this hour, and the nearest shelter was too far for Rex to survive the journey. Yet, as Rex's eyes met his, Tom felt a pull deeper than logic. He thought of moments in his own life when he'd felt alone, when a small act of kindness had made all the difference. Rex deserved that chance. no matter the cost. The wind grew fiercer, stinging Tom's face as he made his choice. Rules could wait. This life could not. What he did next would not only give Rex a fighting chance, but would ripple outward, touching hearts far beyond that snowy alley. This is the story of a man who chose compassion over caution, and a dog who reminded the world what it means to hope. Stay with us to see how Tom's decision unfolded and why it left everyone who heard it in awe. Tom's decision to save Rex was just the beginning of a journey that would test his heart and resolve. With the snow still falling outside, he unchained the trembling German Shepherd and carried him to his truck, the dog's frail body limp in his arms. Tom's small apartment was a far cry from luxury, a cramped space with mismatched furniture and a leaky radiator. But it was warm, and for Rex, it was a lifeline. Yet, bringing Rex home was no simple act of kindness. It was a defiance of the shelter's strict rules, a choice that could cost Tom his job and the life he'd built. What followed was a roller coaster of struggles, small victories, and a looming threat that would push both man and dog to their limits. Inside the dimly lit apartment, Rex was a shadow of the proud German Shepherd breed. He cowered in a corner, his scarred body pressed against the wall, growling softly at every movement. His eyes, once pleading, now darted with fear, as if expecting a blow. The scars on his flanks and the raw wounds around his neck told a story of cruelty that made Tom's stomach churn. He offered a bowl of water and some kibble, but Rex refused, his body shaking as he tucked his tail tighter. Tom knew trust wouldn't come easy. Sitting on the cold floor, a safe distance away, he spoke in a low, gentle voice, recounting his day, the weather, anything to fill the silence with calm. Hours passed, and though Rex didn't move, his growls grew quieter, his eyes less wild. Tom's patience was unwavering, but the weight of his choice pressed heavily. He'd broken the shelter's rules by hiding Rex, and if the director found out, he'd be out of a job. No savings, no safety net, just a dog who needed him. Tom's life became a delicate balance. By day, he worked at the shelter, hiding his exhaustion and guilt, dodging questions about the late-night lockup. By night, he poured his energy into Rex, coaxing him out of fear. He slept little, haunted by the thought of losing his livelihood, but even more by the image of Rex left to die in the snow. The risk was real. Willow Creek was a small town, and word traveled fast. If anyone saw Rex or reported Tom, the director's wrath would be swift. Yet every time Tom looked at Rex, curled tightly in his corner, he knew he'd made the right choice, even if it was the hardest one. Then a glimmer of hope broke through. One morning, as sunlight streamed through the apartment's lone window, Rex stirred. Tom had left a bowl of water nearby, and for the first time, the dog crept forward, his nose twitching. He lapped at the water, tentative at first, then greedily, his tail giving the faintest wag. Tom's heart leapt. Later that day, he tossed a worn tennis ball across the room, not expecting much. To his surprise, Rex's eyes followed it, and after a long pause, he nudged it back with his nose, a spark of playfulness flickering in his gaze. Tom laughed, a sound that felt foreign after days of worry. He sat on the floor, letting Rex approach at his own pace, and when the dog rested his head on Tom's knee, it was a victory sweeter than any paycheck. For the first time, Tom dared to hope that Rex could heal, that he could live again. Not just survive, but thrive. But hope is fragile, and for Rex, the past was never far behind. One evening, as Tom cleaned Rex's wounds, a loud bang from a neighbor's door sent the dog scrambling in panic, his body trembling as he hid under the couch. Tom coaxed him out, but as he ran his hands over Rex's fur, he noticed something he'd missed before. Small, circular scars, burn marks from cigarettes hidden beneath the matted coat. His blood ran cold. These weren't random injuries, they were deliberate, the work of someone who took pleasure in pain. Rex's fear of loud noises, his flinching at sudden movements, it all pointed to a history darker than Tom had imagined. The truth hit harder when a stranger appeared in Willow Creek. Derek, a wiry man with a cruel sneer, had been asking around town about a missing German shepherd. Word reached Tom through a co-worker who overheard Derek at the local bar, boasting about his fighting dog that had run off. Derek was no ordinary owner. He was part of a dog-fighting ring, and Rex, with his scars and terror, was one of his victims. The burn marks, the broken trust, the fear of loud sounds. It all made sense now. Derek's return was a threat not just to Rex, but to Tom's fragile efforts to save him. If Derek found Rex, the dog would be dragged back to a life of violence, or worse. Protecting Rex now meant more than breaking shelter rules. It meant standing up to a dangerous man who saw the dog as property, not a life. As Tom locked eyes with Rex, who lay trembling but trusting at his side, he knew the fight was far from over. The bond they'd built was worth every risk, but the shadow of Derek loomed large, promising a battle that would test their courage. What happened next would leave the town and the world speechless. Keep watching to see how Tom and Rex faced this threat and why their story became one of unbreakable love. The shadow of Derek's threat hung over Tom and Rex like a storm ready to break. Each day, Tom grew more protective, checking the locks on his apartment and scanning the streets for any sign of the cruel man who saw Rex as nothing more than a tool for profit. But Tom wasn't one to cower. He'd saved Rex from the freezing dark, and he wasn't about to let him fall back into a life of pain. What began as a quiet act of compassion was about to become a movement that would not only save Rex, but dismantle a web of cruelty and inspire a community. This was the turning point, where fear gave way to courage, and a broken dog found his strength. Tom knew hiding Rex forever wasn't the answer. Derek's inquiries around Willow Creek were growing bolder, and whispers of his dog-fighting ring sent chills through the town. Tom's job at the shelter was already on thin ice. His late-night absence hadn't gone unnoticed, and the director's suspicions were mounting. But Rex, now eating regularly and even wagging his tail at the sight of a tennis ball, was worth every risk. Tom's bond with the German shepherd had become his anchor, a reminder that some fights were bigger than personal loss. Late one night, as Rex slept at his feet, Tom made a bold decision. He couldn't fight Derek alone, but maybe the world would stand with him. With trembling hands, Tom opened his laptop and began typing. He poured out Rex's story, the frozen alley, the scars, the terror of a dog-fighting past, and the fragile trust they'd built. He included a photo of Rex, his eyes brighter now, but still carrying the weight of his pain. Tom posted the story on a local community forum, then shared it on social media, his heart pounding as he hit send. He didn't expect much, maybe a few kind words, a shared post at best, but by morning his phone was buzzing. The post had gone viral. People across Willow Creek and beyond were sharing Rex's story, leaving comments of outrage and support. Strangers donated blankets, food, and money for Rex's care. A woman named Lisa, a local animal advocate, reached out, offering to help Tom protect Rex legally. A lawyer named Sarah, moved by the story, volunteered to investigate Derek's ring pro bono. Tom was no longer alone. Rex had become a symbol of hope. The groundswell of support gave Tom courage, but it also drew Derek out of the shadows. One gray afternoon, as Tom walked Rex in a quiet park, Derek appeared, his eyes cold and voice dripping with menace. "That's my dog," he growled, stepping closer. Rex froze, his body trembling as memories of cruelty flooded back. Tom stood his ground, heart racing, and calmly told Derek to leave. The confrontation was tense, onlookers watching from a distance, but Derek backed off, muttering threats as he vanished into the crowd. Tom knew this wasn't the end. He and Lisa met with Sarah that night, sharing everything. Rex's burn scars, his fear of loud noises, and Derek's boasts at the bar. Sarah's research uncovered a trail of evidence linking Derek to an illegal dog-fighting operation, and she tipped off the police. The climax came swiftly. Acting on Sarah's evidence and public pressure from Rex's story, the police raided Derek's property on the outskirts of town. Tom waited anxiously at home. Rex curled beside him as Lisa texted updates. The raid was a success. Derek was arrested, his dog-fighting ring exposed, and over a dozen dogs, emaciated, scarred but alive, were rescued from filthy cages. Rex was safe, his ownership legally transferred to Tom through Sarah's efforts. The news spread like wildfire, with local papers and even a national outlet covering the story. People hailed Tom as a hero, but he brushed it off. To him, the real victory was Rex, who no longer flinched at sudden sounds and greeted each day with a wagging tail. Rex's transformation was nothing short of miraculous. The dog who once cowered in a corner now bounded through Tom's apartment, chasing toys and nudging Tom's hand for pets. His coat, once matted with ice, gleamed under the sunlight that poured through the window. In a quiet moment, as Rex rested his head on Tom's lap, Tom realized something profound. Rex had saved him too. The long hours at the shelter, the loneliness of his small life, had weighed on Tom more than he'd admitted. Rex gave him purpose, a reason to fight, and a reminder that kindness could ripple outward, changing more than one life. Tom kept his job. The director, swayed by public support, overlooked his rule-breaking, and he and Rex moved into a small house with a yard, a new home for their new beginning. The story of Tom and Rex became a beacon of hope, shared by thousands who saw in it the power of compassion. Derek's arrest shut down a cruel operation, and the rescued dogs found homes, many through the shelter Tom loved. As Tom watched Rex play in the grass, free and joyful, he knew their journey had been worth every moment of fear and doubt. This is a story of triumph, of a man and a dog who faced darkness together and emerged stronger, proving that love can conquer even the coldest nights. Rex's journey from a frozen alley to a life filled with love is more than a story. It's a testament to the power of compassion. When Tom found Rex, trembling and scarred, he didn't just see a broken dog, he saw a soul worth saving. Through fear, risk, and a battle against cruelty, their bond proved that even the deepest wounds can heal with kindness and trust. This isn't just about one man and one dog. It's a reminder that every small act of courage can spark a ripple of change, touching lives far beyond the moment. Rex's story shows us that no one is too far gone to be saved, and every animal deserves a chance to feel safe and loved. Tom's fight for Rex didn't end with Derek's arrest. Inspired by their journey, he took a leap of faith. With the support of the community that rallied behind Rex, Tom founded Last Chance Rescue, a small but growing center dedicated to animals like Rex, those abandoned, abused, or deemed unadoptable. The shelter, built on a quiet plot just outside Willow Creek, is a haven where dogs once destined for despair now run through grassy fields, their tails wagging like flags of hope. Rex, now strong and confident, is the heart of the place, greeting new arrivals with a gentle nudge, as if to say, "You're safe now." Tom, once a lone shelter worker, has become a beacon for others, proving that one person's kindness can light the way for many. This story belongs to all of us. It's a call to look around, to see the hurting, the forgotten, and to act. Maybe it's a stray in your neighborhood, a donation to a local shelter, or simply sharing Rex's story to inspire someone else. Every step counts. Rex's transformation from a dog cowering in fear to one bounding with joy shows what's possible when we choose compassion over indifference. His wagging tail is a victory for every heart that believed in him, and it's a challenge to keep the momentum going. There are more dogs out there waiting for their Tom, their chance at a new life. So here's what we ask. Share Rex's story. Post it, text it, tell it to a friend. Let it reach someone who needs to hear that kindness matters, that they can make a difference. Visit Last Chance Rescue's page to learn how you can help, whether it's adopting, volunteering, or spreading the word. Together we can ensure that every dog gets the chance Rex did. Subscribe to stay with us because this is just the beginning. Let's keep saving lives, one act of love at a time. Share this story today and let the world know. Every dog deserves a hero.